I'll soothe your pain. I won't ease your strain. I seek you out, flay you alive. One more word and you won't survive. And I'm not scared of your stirring power. See right through you anyhow. I seek you out, flay you alive. One more word and you won't survive. And I'm not scared of your stirring power. See right through you anyhow. I see.
Oh.
I seek you out, flay you alive. One more word and you won't survive.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Danny Horgan, and this is a Wing Chun Blast special feature. This past June, I was able to travel to Waterloo, Canada, a city about an hour outside of Toronto, to meet a Wing Chun community that makes me really optimistic about the art's growth. Sifu O'Neill runs Revolution Wing Chun, a very successful Wing Chun school under the Moy Yat branch. Not far from that school is Infinite Wing Chun, run by Chuck's student, Sifu Bran. Using a scientific approach to Wing Chun, modern fitness elements, and the familial values of the Moy Yat lineage, Sifu Chuck and Sifu Bran are helping each other's schools grow and each other's students grow.
So remember guys, when we're doing the Chi Sau drills, you want to be asking yourself, what am I learning, right? Typical thing I see from a lot of people, especially in the beginning, they say, well, Sifu, nobody punches like this, they punch like this. I'm doing lots of this. Remember, what you're learning, guys, is going back to your basics. You're learning to sit. You're learning to root your body, right? I can't stress how much that this learning to soften the knees and scoop the hips in a pure street combat element. Doesn't matter if I'm not in Yiji Kimyama, but this concept that my heels want to kick out, my knees want to soften, my hips go, it sends this signal to my body saying, this is going physical now, right? And I've had it happen a couple of times where my body goes this, the altercation was boom, and the body wants to go this. We're still talking, but my body's saying, this might start going, because sometimes we inherently know when things are going to get physical. But the problem is if I don't have that body signal, from a completely self-defense system, if I don't have that body signal going here, my brain's still going to think we should be negotiating, we should keep talking. And this is what usually gets people caught, right? So, and again, so we're going to be here. We want to sit. We want to unify our structures, our lower body to our upper body. So that's that hip scooping. Get our back straight, sit back. Remember, we're punching. So when we're here, guys, remember, we want that hang loose for your punch. Now, sometimes I know you might be thinking, but Sifu, I'm too far away to punch. He's still learning how to generate energy, and he's also learning the limits of his hitting. So he's never going to learn to lean, right? He's going to learn to be comfortable and sit and just drive and say, this is as far as my hands will ever go. If I can't hit him, he's going to learn to do what? He should do what then? Move, not lean. Because as soon as I lean, my center of gravity drops forward. So we're here. He's punching towards my what? Center. And he's using his what? His elbows or his hands to hit me? Elbows. So he's using elbow power, right? He should relax his shoulders. His head should be what? Up. Chin should be tucked, right? So we're here. Second hand should be higher than the first, right? Think about it this way. we like to say, oh, I'm punching all the time. But what happens if I'm here, he goes to punch, boom, I throw one. At least if this hand's up, he can protect, and he can also choose to go for Guo Sau or high hand. So we want to make sure that we're always working to the concept of high hand as well as protecting our face, right? Staples easy button, right? So we want to make sure we don't hit that. So we're here. Me, remember, this is just an engine or a cycle. All I'm going to do is, I told you guys, sometimes I refer to this as a Black & Decker multi-tool. So I'm taking my punching attachment off, and I'm using my cocking attachment. When I use the pocket attachment, my hand is soft, but my fingers are together, right? Keep my thumb tucked. Personal experience. If you don't, you're going to snag that thumb or those fingers at a high rate of force, and your fingers won't like it, right? So you want to be soft. And again, if I'm pocking towards his what? Center, right? So when he's here, I'm here. So now, think about the principles we're learning. We're learning facing, because we're keeping our hips and shoulders square. So I'm not doing this, right? I'm learning to use elbow power, but I'm also learning to balance that energy, right? So I don't want, if Len is packing, say he's packing light, his shoulders are killing him, his elbows, he doesn't have his base here, and I'm packing hard, that's incorrect, because I'm not meeting the proper response with the energy. I should be able to control it. It's not that I can't pack hard, but if I learn to master the ability of saying how much is enough, I start to develop sensitivity in the force and the direction. So if I go through the gates, sometimes I like to say that Simon Tao kind of gives you that idea of where things are at. So if I'm sitting in Yiji Kimyo Ma, when I bring my hands down and up, I like to tell people it's really helping you to define the line of attack and the center line. So when I'm here, anything from my fingers down is what I refer to as the lower gate, right? Because we break the height into thirds. When I bring, and anything from my elbow down to my fingers is roughly my middle gate. Anything from here on up, from the elbows up, that's considered my upper gate. Now it also tells me in Wing Chun that my hands protect my upper and my middle gate. My legs and my footwork will actually protect the lower gate. So you want to be able to be mindful of this. Because a common mistake is we want to reach, right? And when I do, then this becomes exposed, where I should be either checking or stepping. The next one you want to look at is depth gates, guys. Your depth gates, when you're here, I always use the hang loose as your measuring tool. So this is why when you guys see me, sometimes I bug you guys about this measuring tool and this hang loose. When we're here, roughly from your ribs to the tip of your elbow is what you call your hang loose. Ideally, that's as far as your hand's going to go. Here, I want to get my hand between 135 and 160 degrees. Right? So I'm getting this distance right. I call the wrist the first gate, the elbow the second gate, and then, of course, inline center line is your third gate. Sometimes I say yellow light, green light, red light, or lights out. Right? So we never want anybody here. If I'm here, oh, Bran, please. So if I'm here with this with Bran, and we just have a crossing hands position, if you guys, we can move around and take a step. When I'm here, guys, we can see at this point we're at a green gate. He can't hit me. I can't effectively kick him, right, without making an adjustment step inward. But if I'm like this, I'm at a point where I should already be hitting because now I've collapsed one of my gates. When I come to this position, now, you see how I've run to the second gate. This should be what you'd think of as a yellow light. So your brain should be starting to freak out a little bit and say, I either need to do something here, whether it's change the position, change the angle, or counterattack or redirect, right? And of course, third position is in line with your center line. So you're always saying, well, that's not good, right? If you're getting hit in the center, then you know you've done something incorrectly, right? Or they've actually taken advantage of something. Thanks, Brian. The last one, guys, you want to look is your inside and outside gates. And this is the one that I can say, next to the depth gates, has really helped me in sparring. Right? When you're here, I like to say, take your hands shoulder width apart. Anything inside my palms is my inside gate. Anything outside my palms is my outside gate. In Wing Chun, we care about this slot here. Right? I'm not as concerned about what's out beside me. Right? Common mistake is, and when we do, sometimes we do push hands for you guys. Guess what? I'll do this. Paul for a second. So Paul's here. We'll do just a push hands. Watch this, Paul, and you're going to be nice with me. So what happens is I'm going to do this. What I used to do, sometimes I'll do this, and usually they'll chase. That's an outside gate. See, my inside gate's open. And that's what I use. Sometimes I'll go like this, and I'll wait. And I'll move, right? So this is why the more you find out, thanks, Paul. The more you find out that you're using the inside gate, you want to say, my hands need to be here. Yes, they can come slightly out, but I don't want them reaching out here, because now this is actually exposed, especially if I'm facing my target this way. Does that make sense, guys?
You're working on becoming as much a trainer as you are working your practice through sitting in the structures, okay? If we were doing a different kind of setup for it, it wouldn't matter, but right now for this particular drill we're gonna do, really try and sit, okay, as much as you can. So we're here, he's got the pucks, he's got good distance, we're all good, so I should be able to sit nice and yiji kimiyama. Hands are in a baijang position, so right hand lead, left hand lead, it's okay, it doesn't matter right now. So all I'm gonna do with right hand lead, back hand is in Wu Sao, front hand's in a Zhang Sao or a Mun Sao, asking hand position, okay? So we're here. So all he's going to do is, he's gonna pop one of the pucks up. I'm going to face that. This is my new line now. This is my new center line, my line of attack. I'm just bringing a bit, just a bit of pressure into this back leg here now, okay? Not maybe a full 70%, maybe 60 roughly. And I'm gonna take a little, just a little adjustment step in, and I'm going to chain punch, okay? I'm gonna use my Zhong Kyun, right? 1, 2, 3, okay? And then I'm gonna press back, or actually even better, start to think this way, guys. Instead of just, you can press back because I'm not receiving any pressure, so I'm choosing to reposition. If he was to feed me pressure here, I would ride that pressure back, okay? But right now, just think I'm gonna press in, and now I'm going to readjust for this. I'm gonna press back and reset to Yiji Kimyama. 0 degrees, we'll refer to this as, okay? 0 degrees. So we're here. Again, he's just gonna flip a pad, I change, slight step in, 1, 2, 3. Good fists, guys. Make sure the fingers are racked down and in, and thumbs are coming right over the top too there, just to lock them in place. Don't need to squeeze the life out of them, just to give them enough structure, right? Okay, so again, just for everyone's reference, here, 1, 2, 3, okay, and here, 1, 2, 3. Excellent, thank you. So that's the idea. So once you get the, okay, left, right, then start to vary it for your partner so they're not getting used to the left, right, okay? Because it's never gonna be like that. It's reaction pad drill training, okay? So it's a reason for it. I wanna be able to react, it doesn't matter, it's just boom, 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 right? Just go with the flow, basically, right?
Knees are and hips are in line with one another. My hands and shoulder, my wrist, elbow, and shoulders are all in line here too. So it's like I'm I'm like a table. I'm at the upside table, regular table, okay? So again, here guys, opposite arm, opposite leg. Keep your hips and shoulders in line with one another, all right? So go, count. Try to avoid kicking way up, almost like imagine kicking straight back. Press the heel back. Keep the shoulders in line and imagine reaching forward with the tips of your fingers. 7, 9, up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So I'm here with Sifu O'Neill and Sifu Bran. Tell us individually how you each got into martial arts and how that journey has brought you to where you are today.
Do you want to go first, Brent?
Sure. Basically, I started training in martial arts at the age of 4. Goju-Ryu karate was the first art that I was exposed to, and I'd always been just kind of fascinated with martial arts in general since that age. And from there, I practiced for a little while, a couple of years, and then something just didn't quite click yet, and so I decided I was going to, try something different. So around the age of 8, I went into Taekwondo for about a year, and from there, again, it was great. I thought it was a great art. I really enjoyed it, but there was still something that was kind of lacking for me. Something just wasn't quite meshing entirely, and so I stopped doing that for a while. And didn't really start doing any other kind of martial art for some time, actually. It was going to be a few years until I came into boxing, actually. For about 2 years, around the age of 17 is when I started boxing. And I did that kind of on and off again, officially and unofficially sort of thing. And it's just, I really enjoyed the flow, the power, and it just made me, it really suited me at that time, at that age, and it was great. It was a great outlet. It was just an excellent opportunity to exercise for one thing, and also learn get into my body and learn how to get some control going, and it provided a bit of a mental thing as well, a mental discipline as well. So that's where it was starting to take me, and it acted primarily as just an outlet for more emotional stuff at that time. And I knew it needed to go past that, but I wasn't quite able to take myself there yet. So I decided, I'd kind of done enough of the official training for that time, and then I stopped training, and then it wouldn't be until I was actually 23 around that time. It was the summer of August 2010. A friend of mine who knew I was a bit of a kung fu film nut recommended to me the Ip Man film with Donnie Yen, and so I was like, okay, I'll check this out and see what this is about. And it was always, I'm a big fan of any Asian cinema. That's like a staple in my cinematic diet, basically, is Asian film and Asian cinema, their culture. I've always been fascinated by it. So, I'll check this out. And I watched it, and it blew me away. I understood it, it's a film, but at the same time, just the portrayal of this character, Yip Man, and how calm he was, and collected, and able to just disperse the situation so quickly and effectively. It really just it kind of snagged me. It snagged my interest big time. So it was about at that time, after I'd finished watching the film, I was working afternoons at that point, and I ended up, it was maybe 4 in the morning, and after I finished that film, I'm immediately online looking for a Wing Chun school, and praying that there's something then around in the area. And fortunately enough, Sifu Chuck had a class for mornings, which worked perfectly for my scheduling. So I ended up taking his class in the summer there, in the August. I brought some friends with me just because I hadn't done anything in a while, just for comfort's sake, and came in and did that, and I was blown away even more because it's real now. It's in front of me, and it's being just so well explained. And even though my brain's kind of just on overload at the same time, the sensory overload was enjoyable, basically, more than anything. It wasn't overwhelming in the sense where it's like, I don't get this, I don't want any part of it. It was like, I want more. It was kind of catching the Wing Chun fever, basically. So that's the way I like to look at it. And I haven't looked back since, just continued, and happy. I love this art. I'm glad to be a part of it. So
Awesome. Sifu Chuck.
Wow. For me, Wing Chun actually, I can say right now is my pinnacle, but when I really started was back around the age of 8. I actually started doing judo, and that actually started off, some of you guys might actually be a little too young for this, but at one point we had Saturday afternoon Kung Fu, right? So you had this channel that had Saturday afternoon Kung Fu, so we used to watch that, and friends, and we'd get together and we'd fight in the backyard doing Kung Fu stuff. So eventually, I have to give my dad a lot of credit. He says, oh, let's get you into something, right? I also had a lot of energy, so I also had a lot of hostility sometimes as a kid. So we got me into judo. I did that for about 3-4 years as a kid, and of course I was falling in love with martial arts, and school was going in the opposite direction. And my mom was academics, like a good Asian lady, academics. So she was there, so we had to put that down for a little bit. I later got back into it through Taekwondo. Right? I said I needed kicking art. So I started training Taekwondo, and it was actually during between my third and fourth year, I actually suffered a knee injury from getting kicked there. My doctor said at that point, you're not to do martial arts ever again, right? He says, I don't know what you're walking on, but you're not going to do martial arts again. And I think the part of me that does martial arts goes, I don't think so. It's the martial artist that I will find a way. So while I was doing this, I started doing a lot more physical training, a lot more conditioning. So I got the knees up. I then got into Kempo Karate. I enjoyed it a lot, and that's when I started really diving into what Bruce Lee was doing. So, the Tao Jeet Kune Do and all these other books. And so I started diving into it, and I said, okay, what's this Wing Chun thing that you hear him talk about? So at that point, I was diving into this information, and I'm saying, okay, if I wanted to diagnose what Bruce did, I have to start somewhere at the same foundation so I have a better understanding. So as I was training, I ended up meeting with a friend of mine, and at the time he had a guy that he knew Wing Chun with. So I said, okay, let me see that. I'm going to play my Kempo against your Wing Chun. So we played, and I had a very interesting experience with it. I said, this is interesting. I said, okay, so I got to look more. So at that point, what I did is I started saying, I'm going to learn the Wooden Dummy. I got to learn this Wooden Dummy thing. It's like everybody wants the Wooden Dummy. So what I did is I got that nice little golden book of photos with Ip Man doing the Wooden Dummy, and I said, I got to find one. So I ended up going online trying to find a wooden dummy that you could purchase in Toronto. And it was like, I found one place that was carrying them. And I ended up talking to the guy. The guy was actually in Thailand, but he had them stored in Toronto. He goes, okay. He says, yeah, if you want one, you can check it out. It's over at this club. The guy that's going to be your contact is this guy, Nelson Chan. He doesn't bother to tell me anything about Nelson Chan. So I go there, and I end up looking at the wooden dummy. Oh, this is cool. Wooden one. He says, okay. And actually, Nelson Chan ended up being my Sifu Wing Chun. He's like 5'2", 5'3", Chinese guy. And first thing he says to me, he says, why do you want a wooden dummy? Right? I said, because I can practice. Do you know Wing Chun? No, I got a book. I think I'll figure it out. I didn't know who this guy was, right? And he goes, okay. So he goes, I got to go teach class. And I said, do you mind if I watch class? So he said, yeah, sure, whatever. So understand, where we were training was very Spartan. It was like a warehouse, literally, and there was like stuff just shoved in one corner, but it was an open area, concrete floor, no fans, nothing. It was like an open warehouse space. And he started training with these guys. And I'm sitting here on this bench and I'm watching him and I'm going, that's Wing Chun. That's real Wing Chun, right? And it was very interesting to see that, because and that was that had to be about almost 15 years ago. So it's funny to see this guy, and he goes, to someone says, come, hit me. I'm like, wow, there's not this throw a right jab here. No, it's just hit me. You see the student, okay. Goes to hit him, he says, bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, afterwards he goes, so? I said, Sifu, can I come to class next week? Why do you want to learn Wing Chun? And I said, one, I love the art. This is amazing. I haven't been able to find somebody. Two, my goal is eventually, and this is one of those things where I really resonated with the research that I found. I said, I eventually want to become a Sifu in the art. And he goes, really, huh? I said, yeah, fine. Meet me next Saturday here at this restaurant, and we're going to talk. This man grilled me for about an hour and a half before I even got to class. And he says, okay, now you come to class, right? So I go to class, and the first thing he does, he puts me in a little bit of Wing Chun. He says, now, go over there with the Tai Chi guys. Okay, Sifu, I go with the Tai Chi guys. And so then I do that, and he says, now what do you think? I still want to do Wing Chun, right? Because the Tai Chi guys were doing much more combative Tai Chi, which is really, really functional stuff. So it's not the stuff you see in the park. So after that, that started the whole journey. And during that journey, I said, okay, I started to explore Jeet Kune Do. I got certified in Jeet Kune Do at one point, because I said, maybe this is the progression. So, you did Kali work, you did all these things. As a result, I still love investigating the arts. Like even today, I'm training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but that's more of my understanding and application of saying, how do I apply Wing Chun principles in a completely different environment?
Right.
And so you enjoy that, but that's where I'm doing that and getting back into some boxing and things like that as well. But the real core is the love of Wing Chun.
So Sifu Chuck, you have served as a personal bodyguard for some pretty famous sport fighters like Chuck Liddell, and you've also been involved in defensive tactics. How does your Wing Chun relate to all that? How does it help you with those experiences?
Well, I think the neat thing is when I had the opportunity to do both some protection detail for executives and different people, it's interesting how Wing Chun does play into how I act. It's all about the facing, the center line, the distancing, the positioning. And so when I was actually introduced to defensive tactics and become certified in that through a different organization, a lot of what they're doing inside, I'm trying to hold back this laughter because I'm saying, Wing Chun does that already. Wing Chun did this like 2,500 years ago. Never come in through the inside, never go straight forward, cut an angle. I'm like, Wing Chun does that already. Oh, this is easy. So when I started doing these defensive tactics, people are like, how come you're picking up this so fast? I'm like, because I've been doing this already, just because it looks like a Chinese art. I said, no, strip it down to the principles, and you say, I'm just shoving it in that container. So when I do that, it's amazing that I can express those ideas, both physically, whether it's dealing with the client or dealing with protecting the client. I'm learning at those angles, those facing, I'm watching the distance, I have the dexterity because of Wing Chun and its ability to use two hands at once. You have the dexterity both to control a client as well as control the distance in front of you instead of being this one-armed bandit. And you also find that when I'm teaching defensive tactics and things like that, you start looking at all these different concepts and you say, okay, well, this is how we explain it, but this is also how you can apply it. So when you look at those different elements, you start to see that Wing Chun has this very, very practical, theoretical side that other things are doing it. So whether it's defensive tactics for law enforcement and security, you're going to find it, oh wow, Wing Chun does that, right? Especially when you look at and you come down to the principles and you go back down to the rules of physics and mechanics and you say, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a nice reinforcing ability because then when all of a sudden you have somebody that's coming from a non-martial arts background and they're saying, as a defensive tactics person, this is what we do. And you look at it and say, well, why do you do it? Because of this, this, and this. And you go, nice, because Wing Chun's already doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you've personally done a lot of cross-training in the Wang Chun Liang lineage with Gary Lam School. Talk about that experience. What differences did you find? How did you feel it helped your Wing Chun overall?
Right. It was actually a great experience. I have to first really give a lot of thanks to my Sifu because he really pounded in a lot of critical elements that sometimes you want to take for granted, like the idea of sitting, the idea of your gaits, understanding elbow power, really understanding these body mechanics. They're so critical that when I went down there, it was great. It was almost like, oh wow. And some of the Gary Lam guys are like, oh, you sit. Why do you sit? We've been with this guy and he doesn't sit, or that. Wow, you get this sense of this. And I enjoyed it. For me, it wasn't so much about, when I went down and when I first met Gary Lam, when he actually came up to Canada, a friend of mine who was one of his students said, "Hey, Chuck, why don't you come and hang out with me and my Sifu, Gary Lam?" I said, "Awesome, you don't mind?" So being partially a traditionalist, if you will, and being very respectful to my Sifu, I said to my Sifu, I called him up, "Hey Sifu, Gary Lam's coming up. Would you mind if I go see him?" Because I can say that my Sifu and I have a very, very close relationship, almost like a father-son relationship. So it's like, I don't want to disrespect you in any way. And he says, and here, I love him because he goes, "Go, tell me what you see," right? So it was interesting to see that a lot of the principles that I know and the theories I know, they're applying them. But what made it different was sometimes they would express them in different drills, different techniques, different descriptions or explanations of these actions. And so sometimes you'd be going through this moment and you'd be like, "Oh, so that's what he was talking about. That's what my Sifu was talking about." So when I got there, it became a very fun experience, right?
Yeah.
You never ran into that experience of like, "Oh no, what have I been learning for the last, 8-10 years? Oh no," because that's always the worst experience for any practitioner of any art. So I can say from that point, it was very interesting. And just getting those little bits of insight and having Sibok Gary Lam say to me, "Hey, try playing with it like this. I know you do it like this in your line, try playing it like this and just see what you think." So it was nice to see he had that same mentality, which is test, take a look, test, which is very much who I am, which is very much who my Sifu is as well.
Sifu Bran, you are probably the youngest Wing Chun school owner I've ever met. What inspired you to open up your own school at such a young age?
Well, the biggest thing really is I love this art. It's constantly showing me there's always just new ways of looking at even the most seemingly simple actions, and there's just a multitude of possibilities, and kind of hence our club's name, Infinite Wing Chun. It's about the infinite possibilities, the infinite application of the art, and just everybody's personal infinite potential. So that's one of the big things. And for me, being able to share the art is a wonderful experience. I'm absolutely thrilled to be in the position that I am. I'm very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate to have Sifu Chuck, who supports me in doing this, and he's supportive of all of us. He's telling us all the time, he's like, "Go out and share and build your groups and just continue your practice and spread the love," basically, sort of thing, right? Spread the art, and it's wonderful. So to have that as a foundation for support is wonderful. And then overall, really, I've always wanted to be in a position from a very young age where I was able to help to empower others, to give them a sense of understanding better their own self-worth. Their capacity is limitless. They are capable of being a leader in some way, whether it be at home or at school, in the club, starting their own group, whatever it may be, whatever the case may be. I wanted people, and I if I can do that for even just one person, by having the group that I have, then that's it. I've done what I've set out to do, and who knows when it'll happen. Maybe it'll happen multiple times, and that's perfect. And I hope to continue doing this for the rest of my days, and sharing the art and building the community and cultivating that sense within myself and with my group and within my Wing Chun brothers and sisters from all lines, that we're all on the same journey, and it's a wonderful experience we all get to share.
So, hypothetical fight, no rules. Ip Man versus Bruce Lee, each on their very best day. Who wins and why?
Me, it's an interesting thing, being both a Bruce Lee fan and having trained in Jeet Kune Do as well. My money still has to go with Ip Man. I've seen things with people that are actually, and if they're both at their peaks, right? I have to say Ip Man. I've seen things where I've seen a 70-year-old man in Japanese swordsmanship just dominate center line with very little effort against a guy that's younger, that has a good level of understanding. One of my students is actually a third-level Japanese swordsman, and he even talks about the same thing. He said he's seen this other sense. Right? So I think Ip Man is this. The thing is, I think Ip Man was a lot more fluid in his understanding than a lot of people want to think. And I think the sad part is all the real images of Ip Man that we have are the ones that were a couple of weeks from his deathbed. You know, this old footage. So you're like, that's no way. So I think Ip Man would have taken that. I think Bruce had a lot of athleticism. He's got a lot of fast twitch fiber. We like to look at the flexibility of his thinking and a lot of that. But I think at the end of the day, I think Ip Man also had that, but he said, no, Wing Chun is my art. And from what I understand, his understanding and his control of center line and of his structures and his distances and his gaits, I think I'd have to put my money on Ip Man. And it's not just being a Wing Chun practitioner. I think I'd have to do that.
Yeah. Bran?
I'm with Sifu Chuck on this one. I think I love Bruce Lee. I think he's fantastic. He was just athletic, intelligent. You know, he was a thinking man. You know, and he did some wonderful things for martial arts as a whole. And again, it's just I think he would have difficulty just trying to make his way and close that gap with Yip Man. I really do. I think he wouldn't be, and once he's in that short mid-range, I honestly feel that Yip Man, that's his home. Like that he lives there, right? It just really, for me, when I got thinking about it, and there's no question, Yip Man takes it for sure. That's where my money's lying too. And again, it's not because I'm a Wing Chun guy. It's just he just seems to me, from the way he's been portrayed through even just the film, like even just if you get snippets of him, like, it's not all factual obviously, but just like those little snippets of who he was, even just as a Wing Chun practitioner and just as a human being from benefiting from that practice, I just think he'd be able to just control the situation very effectively and pretty much lay things out. So
Exactly. I think that's the other thing. Like I have to go back even to the idea of, everybody knows the story of Wang Song Long and how he met Ip Man.
Yep.
Well, the funny thing is, what did he do? Wang Song Long at the time was a boxer and supposedly he was really good. So with Ip Man, okay, and he dispatched Wang, and that's what made Wang say, Sifu, I need to know. So even when you hear that, and when we look at Wang Song Long as the quintessential man of talking hands, he's the fighter of fighters in the Wing Chun family. You have to sit there and say, okay, what would make a very athletic man, skilled in what he's doing, want to switch over and say, I want to do that. Right? So, and that's one of those things that also played a factor into my thinking as well.
So after spending the weekend training with Sifu Chuck and Sifu Bran and seeing their students in action, one thing I really admire about these two schools is their no-nonsense approach to Wing Chun. Now, when most people hear no nonsense, they think smash mouth Wing Chun, right up in your face, aggressive. No, these guys are no nonsense in that they adhere to the Wing Chun system. They put their trust in the Wing Chun system. And you see it in the way they train. You see it in the way they hit the dummy. You see it in the way they play Chi Sau. If anyone watching this, you're up in the greater Toronto area, these guys are about 45 minutes outside of Toronto, contact these guys. Revolution Wing Chun, Infinite Wing Chun, pay a visit to both schools. I'm really happy that I did.